Wondering what video gear is the best to buy for 2020? I did some research for you guys. Here's what I found out. How you guys doing? I'm Jared Poirier and you're watching the Galaxy Design channel. And if you've been watching my videos this month, then you guys have seen a lot of great videos, in my opinion, all about video production. So in this, the fifth and final video in the series, I want to talk about some video gear. Because finding the right video gear was something that I really struggled with when I was getting into videography. There's so many different cameras and lenses and tripods, lights. There's just so much to learn, and it can be very daunting for someone who just wants to create some content. And it's not always easy to get the relevant information for each camera or piece of equipment. Oftentimes, to find the answer you're looking for, you're gonna have to go through quite a few websites. So I thought that I would compile this list for you guys. Every single thing on this list is a piece of gear that I've personally used in the field and I can vouch for. Amazon associate links are down in the description in case you guys want to buy any of this stuff. Okay, so let's start with cameras, and the first one that I want to cover is the LUMIX GH5. Now, this is a pretty capable video camera, guys. The GH5 is a mirrorless camera with a crop sensor that's about 20 megapixels. And why do I say that this camera is great for video? Well, you can shoot 4K, you can even shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, so you can do slow-mo in 4K. That's something that very few cameras can do. And if you're just gonna stick with HD, you can actually do 180 frames per second. So you'll be able to do some serious slow motion with the GH5. Another thing that I love about this camera is the swivel screen. It's a feature that my 6D Mark II also has. Incredibly helpful for vlogging. I'm using it right now to look at myself in this video. I also really like the body of the GH5. I find that the grip feels really good in your hand. Another great feature about the GH5, not only do you have a mic input, so you'll actually be able to use an external mic and get much better sound quality, but you also have a headphone jack, so you'll be able to monitor the sound while you're recording. That's not something that I can do on my 6D. I don't know why Canon didn't put that feature in this camera, but you've got that headphone jack in the GH5. I'd say the only major downfall of the GH5 is that crop sensor, guys, because if you've got a crop sensor on your camera, it's actually gonna cut like the top and bottom and the sides off of your images and videos, and your camera's gonna suffer a little bit in low light situations too. And not only are you gonna face those hurdles, guys, but you're also gonna have to deal with the fact that there just aren't that many lenses that are made for the LUMIX cameras, and it's gonna be really hard to find, especially used crop sensor lenses for your GH5. Of course, LUMIX does have some full frame mirrorless cameras, but they're just as expensive as Sony's. But other than that crop sensor factor, I think that the GH5 is an excellent camera, especially for video production, and especially in 2020. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the camera that I use every single day, the Canon 6D Mark II. The 6D Mark II is a full-frame DSLR with a 26 megapixel sensor. Unfortunately, the 6D does not shoot in 4K, guys, but you can do HD video at 60 frames per second, so you will be able to do HD slow motion. I also think that the 6D has the best camera body of any other camera on this list. Canon has been making cameras for a long time, and I think that they really applied what they've learned to the body of this camera. It just feels so good in your hands. You've got that mic input, so you can use external mics like I'm doing right now. You've got that 3-inch swivel screen just like the GH5, so you'll be able to see yourself when you're vlogging. It's incredibly helpful. And then you have this final point here, which is really the reason why I got the 6D Mark II over any other camera. And that's the fact that I'm the type of guy who likes to have something of a lens collection. I've got a few different lenses. Right now I'm using my 50mm to get a nice like shallow depth of field and background blur. And I like to switch out my lens pretty often. And if you have one of these Sony cameras or a LUMIX camera, you're gonna find it way more difficult to find some used lenses, and you're gonna find it difficult to accumulate a good collection of lenses. There's also the fact that the Sony mirrorless lenses are like ridiculously expensive. I can get a lens with the equivalent focal length and f-stop from Canon used for like a third of the price. Instead of paying like $3,000 for a lens, I can pay under $1,000 for that same lens. I do, however, wish that the Canon 6D Mark II had a headphone jack so I could listen to my audio while I'm making my videos. That would be super helpful. Canon, can you please put a headphone jack into the 6D, please? But other than that, guys, it's a great camera at a great price, and I recommend that you pick up a 6D Mark II for 2020. Okay, so the most expensive camera that we're gonna talk about today is the Sony a7 III. This is a full frame mirrorless camera from Sony. I've used these before and they're pretty friggin' impressive. Unlike the 6D Mark II, the a7 III can shoot video in 4K, but unfortunately, and I don't really know why they haven't added this feature, you can't do 60 frames per second in 4K, which means that you can't do 4K slow-mo. But at 2,600 Canadian, and I am basing all of these off Canadian dollars since that's where I live, the a7 III is actually a pretty good value for your money, especially considering its great low light performance. Of course, the a7 III also has an external mic input. It also has a headphone jack so you can monitor your sound. But something that I don't love about the a7 III is the fact that it doesn't have a swivel screen. There's no way to see yourself when you're vlogging, and to me this is just a huge oversight by Sony. I also don't love the feeling of the body of this camera. I find that it feels too small. The grip doesn't feel great in my hands, and instead of a pro camera, to me it just sort of feels like a toy. But that said, it does have great low light performance. It is a great full frame mirrorless camera. It takes excellent pictures. You can shoot videos in 4K. The a7 III is a good camera and one that I would actually recommend getting for 2020. Okay, so let's switch gears to lighting for a bit. And here I have two lighting options for you guys, depending on how much money you want to spend and how much variation you need in the light. With the newer LED kit, you're gonna get two awesome LED lights, and the biggest selling feature for these guys is the fact that you're gonna be able to adjust the color temperature so you can do a little bit more blue or a little bit more orange light, and you're also going to be able to adjust the light level so you can do brighter or dimmer light. For the extra $100, I think that it's probably worth it, but if you want to cheap out a bit, you always have the softbox option. The newer softbox kit comes with two softbox lights. You won't be able to control the color temperature or the light level, but you will have some lights. And I also want to talk a little bit about audio gear here. So here's a really awesome mic that I use pretty much every day, the Rode Videomic Pro. The sound quality on this mic is pretty phenomenal, especially when you're shooting indoors in like a controlled environment. But even if you're not, this mic offers a lot of really great features. You can adjust the mic record levels. You can record really quiet or really loud. And this mic does a lot to reduce noise with a good shock absorption mount built right into the microphone, as well as an optional high pass filter that can remove some background noise. But the best thing about this mic compared to mics that aren't powered, this mic is powered with a 9-volt battery, and that means that it isolates it from a lot of environmental noise. My old mic that wasn't powered used to pick up like Wi-Fi signals and like the radio and all sorts of different crazy crap. So definitely get yourself a powered mic like the Rode Videomic Pro if you're gonna make some videos in 2020. If lapel mics are more your thing, you've got the option of the Rode Wireless Go. And when you compare this microphone system to a lot of the other wireless lapel systems out there, this one is way more compact and the controls are way more intuitive. So I recommend picking one of these systems up for 2020. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to the end of my recommendations here, guys, which is really good because I've got a meeting that I have to run to. But before I go, I just want to show you guys one more accessory, and that's this guy right here. A really nice Joby GorillaPod with the cell phone clip. This is a super useful piece of gear. My cell phone actually shoots pretty nice video and it does shoot in 4K. So this type of setup can be really good if you just need a quick shot or if you're doing a vlog or something like that. With this crazy little octopus, you can wrap it around all types of stuff like poles, or you can just use it as like a normal tripod on your desk. But I find it super helpful if you're making some quick content. All right, it's getting pretty cold out here, guys, and I gotta run to my meeting, so that's gonna be it for this video. I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. I hope that you learned a lot. Let me know down in the comments, what video gear do you guys use? Do you like it? What features do you like? What do you think could be improved? What's some gear that you're planning to pick up in the new year? But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for me. I'm gonna take a couple weeks off to work on a series of interviews that I'm gonna do with some of my clients, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later.